welcome to Storybreak. I'm Mike Champagne, and this YouTube channel was created to give you a chance to relax for a few minutes and just listen to a story the way you used to when you were a kid. Give you a chance to relax, depressurize, get away from the pressures and changes in the world, and just be for a few minutes. This news story is called Grayson County Ballad. It takes place in a slightly earlier time period, a time when the roles for women were very strictly controlled by the culture in which they lived. And it is the job of this young woman to find a way to be in control of her own life. I hope you enjoy it. Grayson County Ballad. Christina walked out on the hill after dark. The farmhouse looked like a big white paper lantern in the darkness. The windows glowed soft yellow from the light of the kerosene lamps within. It was the grandest house in Grayson County, and it stood on 650 acres of the best land on the river. And it was a monument. It was a monument to Christina's mother, who had been beautiful and died. Her father, obsessed with his grief and spite for a God that would give and then take so mercilessly, wrapped everything in his bitter disappointment, and Christina was the chief prisoner of it. Christina remembered her laid out in the front parlor. Everyone in town came to mourn and to gawk and to gossip. Lord, ain't she beautiful? Those Poole gals sure got the looks, and that Mavis, she's the pick of the litter. Mavis Poole was sought after by half the men in the county. But raw-boned and plain, Jake Crawford, strange to Annie who talked of it, had courted her and won. Lord, what did she see in him? And the girl ain't no prize, is she? Poor thing, looks like her pa. After the wake, after the burial, Jacob Crawford worked like a man possessed, like a demon, to show his neighbors the worth his beautiful wife saw in him. He poured himself into the farm, doubled its size, made it pay and pay again. He pushed the hired hands, working alongside them with steel and fire in his hands, and dealt his business with a sharpness that made men around him grow silent and grim whenever they saw him. Sharp as a scythe. You better watch out for him. Christina was 10 and small and plain, and she knew she was part of the judgment that was on him. The first night they were alone, he came in after dark, and when he saw that the house wasn't clean and there was no dinner on the table, he glared at her with cold reproach. I know you're young, but that don't mean nothing. You're going to have to step up. I'm sorry, Pa. I'll do it. Sorry don't get it done. Y'all gotta learn. Lord knows you're nothing to look at. He paid some of the women to come and show her, but the house was large, and they rolled their eyes at the size of the task the young girl had to accomplish. That man done lost his mind. Y'all be careful now, honey. Do the simple things. Don't go getting ahead of yourself. Christina worked as hard as her little body could tolerate. She rose early and she went to bed late, forcing herself to remember it all, hoping to make it perfect. Young as she was, she learned to keep that house as spotless as any full-grown woman. But it was in the kitchen that she seemed to find some strange power. Lord, honey, what'd you put in this? It's better than mine. It wasn't that Christina enjoyed eating. She was so busy that she ate only to stay alive. She never felt hunger, but there was a need, a hope, that she could show her father that she did have some value. In just 2 short years, she was as accomplished in the kitchen as any woman in the county. The house was crisp with laundered curtains and clean white tablecloths. Beds were turned and freshened weekly, and the whole house was swept and polished, ground to gable, every week. All this she did in the hopes of seeing a vision of herself in her father's empty eyes. Words were few between them, and the distance grew broad and cold as she went from child to girl to woman. She was small and remained dish plain. Her watery blue eyes had no sparkle, and her figure was reed thin. Now at 20, she was as attractive as a straight-back wooden chair. As beautiful as the house was, and as fruitful as the farm was, it was certainly her and her father's prison. They each occupied different cells in the labor of its perfection. Then one morning, Jake come down to breakfast. He sat silently at the table, as he always done, while Christina laid out his breakfast: eggs, ham, grits, a slab of toast with butter, and a pot of steaming coffee on a cloth ready for him to pour. Slowly Jake pushed the plate away. For the first time he looked up at his daughter and with a flat voice said, "I'm dying." For a moment, Christina wasn't sure she heard him right. Then she came back to herself and tucked her hands in her waist, afraid to reach out to him. "When?" "Month, maybe 2. I'll likely take to my bed the last couple of weeks. You're going to need a husband." She took this in for a moment, then she turned away, not wishing for him to see her tear up. "I can manage." "You can't manage. This here's way too much for a little old gal like you. You need a husband. I got the Halsey boy coming in here to court you this afternoon." It took her breath away. The suddenness of it, and the flat decision of a man coming for her. She knew Del Halsey. Handsome. Like all the Halsey boys, he liked his drink. And his women. "He won't want me, Pa. I ain't what he likes." "He likes the farm right well. He'll take you if it comes along." "He won't want me." "He'll want you all right. He ain't got a pot to piss in. He don't get nothing if he don't stay married to you. Got it fixed up with a legal paper. If he comes, and if you like him, he signs before the wedding." "You want me to do this?" She couldn't look at him. "No, I don't want you to do this. I don't fancy dying neither, but they both got to get done. I can't think of no other way to keep the farm together." "Do you love me, Pa?" It sprang out of her mouth like an ugly frog before she could stop it. Now the words sat there between the two of them, making Jake look away. You don't have to take him. There's plenty of others who'll take the deal." "I can do it." "Girl, you can't farm this place. This here's way too much for you. I'll hire hands. Y'all gonna tell a bunch of farm hands what to do? Hell, come election, they'll be running off with the place before you know what happens. Ain't no hand gonna listen to a slip of a thing like you, and it ain't as though we got anyone coming after you on their own." "I know I ain't much to look at, Pa." "Well, I don't reckon that's your fault. This way, you won't be alone." That was all there was to it. There didn't seem to be anything else left to talk about. At noon, Del Halsey showed up, hat in hand, and a bunch of wildflowers he'd picked along the road along the way. Christina peered at him through the screen door. He was indeed handsome. His coal black hair had been brushed back, and he'd put on a clean shirt. His blue eyes looked like hard candies, and he flashed that big boyish grin that verged on stupid. "Miss Christina, I believe your daddy told you I'd be coming to call." "He did." There was an awkward pause as he smiled at her through the screen door. Uh, can I come in? Shaken from her reticence, Christina flustered, Well, I guess. Thank you, ma'am. He entered and peered around the hallway of the house appreciatively. Y'all live here by yourselves? Come to the parlor. Thank you, ma'am. He strode into the parlor, looking around him as he was taking inventory of the furnishings and the crisp curtains on the windows and gaining in enthusiasm with every step. Clean as a whistle. Christina didn't know how to accept the compliment, and so she kept silent. They both sat in the parlor opposite each other across a low table. Finally, Dalhousie offered her the flowers he had brought. These are for you, just a small token of my respectful intentions. His smile seemed to warm slightly. Thank you. I'll get a vase. Christina got up to go to the kitchen, and Dalhousie got up as she did. It made her very uncomfortable. You'll like a piece of pie? Thank you, ma'am. That would be just fine, if you please. All right. Just set a minute. I'll get it. When she returned with the flowers in a vase and the wedge of fresh apple pie, Dalhousie was admiring the parlor organ. Do you play? No. I do like me a girl who can play or sing or something. I polish it, but I don't play. It was my mother's. She played. I have no particular talents. Oh. Your pie? They sat back opposite each other across the little table as Dalhousie dug into the wedge of pie Christina had brought him. He was silent as he quickly dug his way through the enormous slice of pie. Finally, he put down his fork and the dish on the small table. That there, he said with great ceremony, is the best piece of apple pie I ever ate. It's just pie. No, ma'am. I am a man of appetites. I know. Even my own ma could not approach that pie. Well, Christina had never had a compliment like this. She had no way to either acknowledge it or take it in. Did you make that pie yourself? I did. You want another piece? Well, I don't want to trouble you. I'll get it. Christina quickly went to the kitchen to fetch another huge slice of the pie, and so it went until the pie was gone, and Dalhousie's appetite for her pie had broken down her resistance. By the end of 2 weeks, Dalhousie had proposed, and she had acquiesced. He eagerly signed the lawyer's agreement that he would lose any claim to the property unless he remained married to Christina, and so the bargain was sealed. Her father lived long enough to give her away. 2 days later, after the wedding, he expired. The combination of the wedding and the sudden funeral had put Christina's wedding night on hold. Christina had cleaned and cooked and seen to folks nonstop. Her thin little frame was exhausted from the effort, and in her heart she was relieved for the delay. She had no knowledge of that part of marriage other than dim hints she gleaned from local women in whispers and winks. Terrified, fascinated her all in the same breath, but she was grateful for the time to think. Dalhousie had seen to the farm, his farm now. He was quick to tell her that. You're my wife now, so I reckon this here's my farm. He was a man of property now. It burned her soul to know she could be passed so easily from her father to a husband with so little to say in her own disposition, and all on the strength of a piece of pie. Dalhousie's father and brothers, who came to Jake's funeral, approached him with deference now. They eyed the house and the furnishings and the lush land and calculated the value that had just come into their family. Word had it that Jake left behind a tiny sum of money as well. There was a tin box. Christina guarded it from him. was the only thing she felt she had left. "Y'all want to remember the family that bore you, son," Dell's father had whispered paternally to him during Jake's wake. "Daddy, if you think you're getting anything off me, you better take yourself back to your poor-ass little patch of ground. This is my farm now, and everything in it is mine. You ain't getting one thin dime. After all we done for you." "What you done? What you done is work me like a dog and give me nothing but a beating to show for my pains. You done that to all us boys. If I didn't marry this little old stick, I'd still be working in your fields and getting drunk every night." "You think you got it all, don't you?" "I got what I need. It ain't much, but she cooks like you went to heaven. If I need something else, I guess there's places I can go. Now y'all go on, get. Ain't nothing here for y'all." "You dumb sucker. You're going to be sorry for that. You're going to need us one day." "No, sir, I don't think I will. Now, are y'all going to leave, or do I have to ask my men to escort you the hell off my farm?" The rest of the Halseys, they left with the old man, muttering curses and grabbing handfuls of the funeral foods Christina had set out. 2 days passed, and Dell Halsey had told her to rest herself and that he would come to her this night to be a husband to her. The night sounds of early summer floated in through the open window of Christina's room. She'd recovered from her labors, and this night she had bathed and brushed her hair and laid herself down on her bed in anticipation of what she knew must come. In her fear and excitement that day, she had made him all her special dishes. She had piled the table high with 2 joints of meat and butter beans and taters and yams. She had fixed biscuits and baked a huge cake. She put all her anxiety into her cooking, and the result was a feast which he fell upon like a starving man. All the while he ate, he muttered compliments and moaned his appreciation of each plateful. Christina sipped on tea and ate very little, but her eyes glowed at his enthusiasm and his huge appetite. Her father had always eaten sparingly and in silence. When he was done, he pushed the plate away, signaling her to clean the table. There were no words of appreciation, although she hung on hopes of them. But with Dell Halsey, a meal was an event, full of words and sounds and clatter as dishes were emptied and gravies sopped up with light floury biscuits. Expletives of every kind were offered, extravagant and rude though they sometimes were. At the end of dinner he belched grandly and poured himself a tumbler of whiskey from the bottle Jake had kept for medicinal purposes only. "Y'all go and clean up now. I'll be up directly." With that, he took his tumbler to the porch as Christina cleared the table and made herself ready. 3 hours went by, and for a while Christina slept. Then, when the moon had set and the night was full dark and deepest, she felt him enter her bedroom. She heard him slipping out of his clothes, occasionally bumping into the furniture. When he did, he cursed quietly and continued to disrobe. Finally, he came to the bed. She could smell the strong odor of whiskey on him as he tumbled onto the bed. He reached for her roughly and clamped an arm across her waist, drawing her to him in one quick sweep. Before she could tell what was happening, he had torn off her nightgown, and he was on her and over her, consuming her like the meal she had witnessed. Consuming was the only way to describe it. She felt herself being swallowed by his rough and clumsy hands. His mouth reeked of whiskey, as did his skin. He was strong and insistent, and she knew she had no choice but to submit. What were they winking at and whispering at, those farm women, she wondered. There was nothing to wink about. It was bruising and painful and without love. When it was over, he rode off her, leaving her cold and empty. He turned on his back and snored like a hog for the rest of the night. In the morning, He sat at table and slurped and slobbered his way through a mountain of sausages and eggs and bread. "Y'all need to put some meat on your bones, woman. It's like making love to a piece of wood. Sit down and eat." But Christina just served him. She wasn't hungry. She was never hungry. Eating was something done to keep going. There was no hunger in it and no pleasure. After breakfast, Del Halsey went out to run his farm, and Christina was alone to ponder what had befallen her. At night she held her breath and endured him, waiting for sunrise and her escape. It was only 2 months before things began to change. Each evening he seemed to drink longer and longer and came to bed later and later. Sometimes he passed out cold on the bed without taking his clothes off. She'd slip out of bed those mornings grateful and go down to the kitchen and make him a larger than normal breakfast. He'd gained weight now. His body had thickened and he lost its boyish gracefulness. Meals were filled by sounds of guzzling and slurping and growls of satisfaction. The only conversation was, "More grits. Give me some bread. Where's the eggs?" He was rough and sullen with her, and quick with his hands if she was not fast enough to anticipate his wants. In running his farm, Del Halsey harassed and hectored the hired hands, giving pointless orders to men who knew better than he what needed to be done. One by one, the men quit. One by one, they'd come to the house and requested their wages and paid their respects to Miss Christina as they left cursing and muttering up the path away from the beautiful house. At length, the only hand left was Angel Dunlop. Angel was a gawky 16-year-old orphan with no kin to take him. Del Halsey knew it. With the other men gone, he treated Angel with abject cruelty. Forced the boy to do the work of 3 men, but Angel stayed and did whatever he could. Christina saw all this and felt helpless. There were only a few years between them, and she was sorry for Angel. She brought him meals in secret, and in return, the boy loved her. Even though it was high planting time, Del Halsey was making ready to go to town. The pleasure of running his farm had passed with the departure of the men. Del Halsey saw himself as a rich man with a rich farm. He owed himself the pleasures of town, he figured. After all, he was living up to his part of the bargain. As long as he stayed married to that stick, he could do as he liked. What the hell good was she? Aside from cooking, she wasn't no kind of a woman. "I'm fixing to spend some time in town. Where's it at?" Christina knew what he meant, but she pretended not to. "Where's what?" "Don't get smart, girl. I want that box you've been hiding." I don't have no box." "I've done what I had to. Now I reckon I got a right to that box. I know you got it. I seen you with it when you wasn't looking. Now where is it?" "I don't know what you mean." He was on her. He was quick, and it didn't take long for her to get that box from its hiding place in the flour sack. He pried it open with a kitchen knife, emptied it, and left her, leaving her with a cut lip and bruises forming on her face. Christina tended to her wounds with a cold, clean cloth and picked up the ruined box. The lid was bent, and it no longer held the remainder of her pride. Del Halsey spent his day at Miss Lindsay's. Everyone knew what men went to Miss Lindsay's for. There was plenty of liquor for too much money, and women. "Y'all want me to try and plow that back field, Miss Christina?" Angel stood at the back door looking through the screen as she cleaned her kitchen of scattered flour and broken spirit. The boy stared at her, and he knew enough not to notice her swelling face. "Mr. Halsey's gone to town." "I know. If we don't plant that field, there ain't going to be no animal feed this winter." "No feed?" She held the cold cloth to her face, half to hide the damage. "No, ma'am. That's what we done every year before." "Then I guess you better do it." I can try, but I need another hand. And them other fields need planting if y'all want a cash crop. It's a two-man job, miss." At that moment, Christina felt some chain inside her brake. Some weight that held her slipped loose, and she felt herself rise suddenly. "Then it's two men to do it." Christina tore off her apron and pushed open the door, passing the boy on the porch. "You can't do that, Miss Christina. That's man's work. You can't help me plow, miss." "It's just work, Angel. Y'all come on. We got some plowing to do." That evening, Del Halsey didn't come home at all. He stayed in town, passed out on Miss Lindsay's velvet settee in the parlor. Christina and Angel dragged back to the house after sunset. Christina was relieved to find Del Halsey still gone. In spite of her fatigue, she set about making a meal. She told Angel to wash himself at the pump and come back for his supper. She found a ham and some biscuits from breakfast, and she sliced up some ripe beefsteaks from the kitchen garden. She watched as Angel fell upon the meal, famished from the day's work. It pleased her to see the boy sitting at her table satisfying himself. Neither of them spoke until the end. "Oh, that was right fine, Miss Christina, thank you. You figure Mr. Halsey's going to be mad to see that field plowed, Miss Christina?" "I know I'm going to be mad not to see it plowed." "Yes'm, but what are we going to do when he comes back and sees what we done?" Christina looked at the gangly boy with the hard sunburn and blonde hair. He had a good face, but still a boy's, and his eyes were filled with a kind of trust she had never seen in anyone else's eyes. "Angel, you go and tell the men to come on back. You tell them they can work for me." But miss, Mr. Halsey, ain't he the owner?" There was a light in Christina's eyes now, and it blazed out of her. She turned to Angel's face and said, "You tell 'em I'll give 'em a share of the profits if they come. You tell 'em we need 'em now." Del Halsey stayed in town for some days. During the day, he'd buy a bottle and sit out on the porch of Miss Lindsay's house and quietly drink himself happy. And at night he would find the comforts of his real women more pressing than needing to come home to his farm. The men had come with the promise of a share. The land was rich. One good crop would earn more in one season than they could earn for a whole year at other farms. Christina gave each man to understand that the deal was strictly between her and them. She would be the one to pay when the crops were in. Del Halsey was no part of the deal. "Oh, what if he says no? What if he don't give us our share?" They all wanted to know. "I'll pay you myself," she told them. "You let 'em think y'all came back 'cause things is tough. Tell him you can't make it without this place. Don't pay no mind to whatever he says. And at the end, I'll see you get what's coming to you." So the pact was formed. When Del Halsey came back, he was defiantly silent. He said nothing to his wife about his robbery of her pride or his absence. He carried a bottle with him, and in it he found his own reasons for his absence without excuse. Christina did not question him. In fact, she was as compliant as always. That evening she prepared his dinner with all his favorite fixings. She made sure that he had an extra bottle to follow the meal. Then she went to bed. At breakfast she did the same, followed by another bottle. Del Halsey began to find the front porch an easier place to pass the afternoon, with his whiskey comforter and the anticipation of a fine meal behind it. Christina slipped instructions out to the hands through Angel out the back door of the house. She was prepared to answer his objections, but Del Halsey said nothing. Finally, she told him the story that she'd made with the men, how hard times had made them come back, how they needed to work, and with him gone a while, she let 'em come. "I knew they'd crawl back," Serves him right. I'm going to cut the pay, though. Mark my words. But she didn't. She ignored him and remained silent and served him. Del Halsey spent the summer on the front porch dodging honeybees and pulling on a bottle. In his mind, he was king of all he surveyed, and he grew fatter and lazier with each passing day with the cobblers and cakes and sandwiches with which Christina kept him supplied. Every breakfast and dinner was rich and heavy with the fats and sugars he loved. Glazed hams and candied yams and honey-dipped fried chicken. Christina held him captive with whiskey and food and bombarded his appetites with everything that delighted him. When he felt restless, he went to town. Feeling bold now, he invited 2 of Miss Lindsay's friends to come calling at his home when the mood struck him. In the beginning, he said, these here are 2 ladies who have been kind to me. You make sure they get treated right, you hear? If they cared to stay the night, Christina said nothing, as long as the farm ran, and she made sure they had the benefit of her hospitality as well. Through the summer and into the fall, the farm prospered. The crops came in, and Christina split the profit among the men. They would retreat for the winter and return in the spring. Only Angel would stay over those months to tend the livestock and keep the barns cleaned out. He'd gained his height now, and the work had put muscle on his arms and shoulders. His voice had deepened, and he had a new appreciation of Christina beyond simple gratitude. In late fall, Del Halsey had his first stroke. The doctor was called for, and he was sent to bed. His left side was paralyzed, so walking was extremely difficult, especially since he weighed over 300 pounds. Clear broths, dry toast, no whiskey was the doctor's prescription. He was to get up twice a day and walk. If he did that, he should recover. He's a young man. No reason for him to look as he does. Of course, doctor, Christina listened soberly, but he does have his appetites. You make sure he listens. And that was all. Through the winter, Del Halsey was given everything he wanted. Whiskey, women, meals of epic proportions. Christina made sure he was satisfied to his last breath. At the wake in early spring, the Halseys came. I told him he'd be sorry. Look at him. He looks like a hog that's done been slaughtered. What the hell happened to him, girl? Christina looked at the senior Halsey with sad eyes. He just wanted what he wanted. No one could tell him no. Damn fool. If he'd been better to his kin, we could have helped him. So, what are you going to do now, girl? Oh, I'll manage. You know, Del has a brother. Fine-looking man. I do believe he's looking for a wife. After a decent period, of course. Oh, thank you. I'll consider it in due time. Christina moved away and tended to the folks that came. When it was over, it took 6 men to carry Del Halsey's coffin up the hill. When she returned to the house, Angel sat in the kitchen. It had not escaped him that time and work had somehow softened her. She seemed softer and more womanly, and she was flushed and pink from the climb up the hill to the graveyard. In the moment, it seemed to him that she was pretty. Evening, Miss Christina. Evening, Angel. She was aware that the young man was looking at her differently, and she turned to hang her coat by the stove to warm. The morning was still cold, and yet she didn't feel it. Too early for the hands. She held on to the coat and didn't turn as she became aware of a peculiar feeling inside. It was unlike anything she could remember before. She couldn't put her finger on it. I know, Angel. Ain't much to do till they come. Angel's voice was deeper now, and it seemed to her that she could feel it through the floorboards. "What would you like me to do, Miss Christina?" She turned and looked at the handsome young man at her table. It suddenly dawned on her what that strange feeling was that she was experiencing. She was hungry. I hope you enjoyed Grayson County Ballad, and I hope you'll join us next time for a story called The Ecstasy of Sister Penelope. It's a story about a small convent of nuns who encounter the divine in a very unexpected and unusual way. In the meantime, if you enjoyed Grayson County and our other stories, please press like and also subscribe so you'll know when the next story is ready. In the meantime, be well, do good, and I'll see you then.